My name is Frank Cohee. I was originally from the state of Maryland. I moved to Florida several years ago, and now I'm from Florida. I was born in Ridgely, Maryland.
Maryland, when?
1929.
29. And then you went to school in Maryland?
Yes, I did.
Uh-huh.
And graduated from University of Maryland.
What did you study?
Business.
Business?
Right.
When did you graduate?
I had a degree in business management. Actually, I didn't graduate until I got out of the Army. I was going off and on for several years, and after I got out of the Army and was discharged in 1971, I went to on-site University of Maryland and finished up a year. I had to go and got my degree in business. I enlisted in 1948.
1948.
September 1948.
Mm-hmm. So where did you go to receive the basic training?
Camp Breckenridge, Kentucky, with the 101st Airborne Division. I got married in 1950, in May of 1950. And of course, and I was later on notified, and I left to go to Korea in August of 1950. She didn't take it too bad. Maybe it was because we hadn't been married that long. I don't know. But of course, she didn't like it. She, didn't want to see me go, but I had no choice. So. And we were stationed in Fort Meade, Maryland, and actually my whole unit, which was the 19th Ordnance Medium Maintenance Company, went over as a unit. We had no special training. We had already had basic training course, advanced basic, and that kind of thing. So we got a train to go to Seattle, Washington, and we left out of Seattle, Washington on a ship. Many people were sick, including myself. It was the first time I was ever on a big ship, troop ship like that, and as you probably know, the bunks are so close together, and it's so crowded, and everybody was sick. And of course, they tell you to eat, but that didn't help too much. I wasn't scared. I just didn't know what to expect. And as I'm sure you've heard many, many times before, Korea, I don't even know what Korea was or where it was. So, and I guess I was more excited, if you want to say, to see what was going on than anything.
Really?
Yes.
Exciting.
Exciting to go. We went to Korea on a Japanese ship. It was probably about August 11th or 12th. And we arrived in Busan, Korea, because at that particular time, everybody had been pushed back to Busan. There was no place else to go. When we first got there, we had no place to go. We had no equipment because our equipment was on other ships coming in. Oh. And so we spent the first few days on the beach in Busan wondering if we were going to have to swim back to Japan or what we were going to do. Because, it just seemed like the North Koreans were continuing to push, and there was no place else to go. We were at the last safe haven, if you will, if you can call it that. And we didn't get too much damage from the ground troopers. We mostly got hit from what they used to call Midnight Charlie, and he'd fly over at night and drop, I'm pretty sure it was like hand grenades because there wasn't any bombs, and hardly anybody ever got hurt. But it was just one of those things you had to be careful about. And later on, of course, when we started pushing the North Koreans back, we finally got our equipment, and I believe the first place that we advanced to out of Busan was Daegu. Yeah. But let me back up a minute. While we were in Busan, we finally moved from off the beach and living in pup tents to living in more or less garment factories. Some of them had been bombed out, but they were a lot better to sleep out under the stars, if you will. So like I said, then we finally got our equipment, and we moved from there as they were moving up. as American troops were moving up and the Korean troops, South Korean troops, and moved into Daegu was our first stop. Monson maybe or something like that. Yeah. And of course we kept moving up to Seoul and to, on up to. We almost got up to the Yalu River. We got as far as Suncheon, North Korea, and that's when the Chinese came in, of course. We were service units, so we really didn't participate in any battles, but I was, involved in them because I got Bronze Stars for the ones I served in. I got 7 battle stars for being in the war, but the infantry did most of the fighting. Again, at that time it was still hectic because people were running around all over the place because they just North Koreans had just left there, and but here again we were like we wanted to stay a day or two at the location because they were moving up so fast, pushing North Koreans back.
How about Pyongyang? When you entered the Pyongyang?
I don't really remember, but again, outside of being a little hectic, it was probably about the same as Seoul.
What was the most difficult moment for you during your whole service in Korea?
When the Chinese came in, and we had to drive back down the mountains and stuff, and it was nothing but ice all over the roads, and our unit got separated. But that was probably it.
Were there any engagement with Chinese soldiers?
Not per se, no. We got fired at as we were moving back, but I'm not so sure if they were Chinese or Koreans. But we got shot at, in their trucks, but fortunately, didn't get hurt. We had eventually, initially we slept in the pup tents, of course, but then we slept in textile factories. That was on the way up. And then we finally got large squad tents. And one squad would sleep in a large squad tent. And we did have wooden bunks, wooden canvas bunks. The happiest moment, I think, is when I finally got ordered to come home, naturally.
When did you hear about that?
Oh, probably about a week or so before I come home, yeah. I can remember.
Late November of 1951?
Yeah, probably around November, early December. Of course, go back a little bit, I was really looking forward to coming home. I thought I'd be home for Christmas in 1950, but of course that didn't happen. But I did make it home for Christmas 1951, yeah.
What was the saddest moment?
I guess when the Chinese came in, probably. Because and then of course when I got the Truman year, they added a year on to our tour. We were supposed to come home a lot earlier than we did, but I guess the worst thing was that we were in front of the artillery, as I said before, in front of a lot of the other so-called ground troops, and we were very close to whoever the division infantry people were, because that's what we were supporting. They were getting 4 points a month, and the people behind us, the artillery, were getting 4 points a month. We were only getting 2 points a month. So, I know. So we had erected a big sign and put it up, told them, now, if it was in our area, it said, you're now entering 2-point area. If you're on the other side, it said, you're now entering 4-point area. And I still got some pictures of that sign at home. And there may have been one or two, but hardly anybody ever talked about the Korean War at that time. And of course, I'd had enough, and I decided to get out as soon as my time come up in 1952. But then things got pretty tough again, about like they are now, and there wasn't many jobs, and so I decided to go back in the military. And I was able to go back in, and then later on, actually I got a direct commission, and served my last 10 years as a commissioned officer, and that's as I was in Vietnam. I was
Oh, you were in the Vietnam too?
yeah, I was a major in Vietnam and a staff sergeant in Korea.
Oh.
So made a big difference.
Compared to the Korean War, what was the uniqueness of the Vietnam War?
I guess the difference was, it seemed like in Korea, you always knew where the front line was.
Mm-hmm.
But in Vietnam, there didn't seem to be a front line. So, and we used to kid each other by saying the people that worked for us, Vietnamese people who worked for us during the daytime, manned the mortars at night and fired on us, you know. But other than that, it was war just like any war. Actually been back 2 or 3 times, two at least.
Wow.
And I think that was in like the 90s. I think one of them may have been 97, 98, and one of them was a little earlier than that.
So when did you first go back to Korea? What did you feel?
Oh, I was so surprised. It looked so much different. When we were there, of course, there was only one bridge, and that was a man-made bridge, and the other one, of course, was bombed out. And now I don't know how many bridges across there, several, I know. And of course, most of the buildings had grass huts, you know, straw roofs. I was so surprised to see so many skyscrapers and even women drivers. Keep remembering it's not really a forgotten war. The war's never ended. There's people over there in harm's way every day right now, so they need to think about that and not forget about the veterans that are still out there, and not only in the Korean War, but in Iraq and Afghanistan.